What's up, and welcome inside the Citrus TV studios for another online edition of Cuse Countdown with analysts Darius, Joshua, and Ben Peck. I'm John Nolan. Glad to have you along as we preview Syracuse and UConn. But first, guys, I feel like a broken record. The Orange at Rutgers, another week where, in a lot of ways, SU outplayed its opponent, only to come out with another loss.
It's tough when a team makes the same mistakes over and over and over again. As an SU fan, it's got to be getting frustrating to have the same mistakes, same mishaps, and the same failing ability to pull out a clean
Not only
victory.
the same mistakes, though, the same tendencies. They can't ever get ahead of their opponents, and even when they do, they can never close the door. It's like they always find themselves in a close game no matter what.
Well, SU trying to figure out how to close the door on the opponents. What do you say we try to open the door now on the kickoff? Following SU's 23-15 loss in New Jersey, Doug Marrone said the Orange's problem is very, very simple. It's turnovers. The Cuse gave the ball away 4 times in the second half at Rutgers and had a field goal get blocked and returned for a touchdown. We know fans are in shock as they watch the miscues over and over again. But is Coach Marrone too? And by the way, if you have any earmuffs, now would be the time to put them on.
I get surprised at every mistake. If I'm going to stand here and say that I'm not surprised by a mistake, then I'm a coach. Okay? All right? So I am surprised when we make mistakes.
And all right, guys, earmuffs off now. Doug Marrone says he holds himself accountable for the mistakes his players are making, but should he?
Oh, yeah, you definitely should. You know, it's tough as a coach when you put that game plan in week to week. You go into practice, you expect your players to execute, and then they just make the same mistakes over and over again. He's got to teach these guys discipline.
I'll be honest, I had a tough time hearing Coach Marrone, but from what I did hear, it sounds like the same old, and like you said, discipline. Nobody really has to worry about their job security. He's got to make these players pay for their mistakes.
Now, maybe the best news for Syracuse following that loss against Rutgers is that the Orange's opponent on Friday night, UConn, has had its own issues with miscues so far this season. As we take a look now, UConn, just like Syracuse, very prone to turning the ball over. In fact, Darius, Syracuse 101st in the country with the most turnovers, and UConn even worse, 110. That's out of only 120.
Yeah, it's tough to win a game when the ball's always in the other team's hands, and, you know, SU's going to have to step that up going the rest of the season.
And also, keep in mind, these defenses are top 30. It'd be interesting to see how good they really would be if the opponents weren't starting with less than 50 yards to go so often, but also take a look at the penalties. It's not just holds on sacks where players are getting beat. It's just simple penalties that are about focus.
Yeah, and those 45 penalties right there, 92 in the nation for Syracuse. Just terrible, terrible.
And so with UConn's proficiency for turnovers in mind, Shamarko Thomas says Syracuse's defense is salivating to go up against UConn quarterback Chad Whitmer.
He stares down his receivers. He got 2 good receivers. It's not a receiver, he's a tight end, but he uses them as a receiver, 94 and number 8. And he stares them down, and that's creating great opportunities for DBs to look into it.
You can literally see Thomas licking his lips there as SU goes up against the aforementioned Whitmer. Darius, why does he have 10 interceptions this season?
Well, let me just say, you know, Shamarko Thomas licking your lips there. Hopefully you get that second interception on the season. But Chandler Whitmer, seriously just not that good of a quarterback. But in his defense, he does not have a lot of time to throw the football. UConn's allowed 20 sacks on the season. That's not a lot of time for any quarterback, even Matt Barkley or the great Geno Smith. You know, you're not going to have a lot of time to take a 3-step drop, let alone pick apart a defense if the defense is always in your face.
And also keep in mind they have Scotty McCummings. Saw some time last year, and they're trying to mix him in this year. But also Lyle McCombs, he's been not necessarily dominating, so it's been tough for Whitmer.
And, guys, while the UConn offense still developing at this point, the defense in a lot of ways is already there, and maybe no one more so than sophomore linebacker Ewan Smallwood. Don't let the name fool you, right, Ben?
No, he can definitely bring the lumber. This guy can do pretty much everything, some things better than others. In particular, defending against the rush, coming with the blitz, trying to get the sack. He excels in all those. He's already made it onto some draft charts as a redshirt sophomore. And by the way, born on Christmas in 1991. What a Christmas present for the Huskies. I bet they didn't see that coming, but it's paid off for them.
Well, speaking of Christmas, Connecticut is the nutmeg state. And how about one of the leaders for UConn up front defensively, Trevardo Williams.
Yo, this guy is a monster. He gets into the backfield, gets in quarterbacks' faces. As you see, he's got 7.5 sacks on the season. Earlier, he said he wanted 16 for the whole season. He's well on his way, and another fun fact to help you out there, he's got 26.5 sacks already in his career, and the record for UConn is 27. He's definitely going to surpass that. He uses his speed and his strength to get to QBs and really cause a lot of havoc.
I'm being told that those are some pretty good numbers there.
And finally, Ben, as we get to know UConn here, a guy who needs no introduction in this part of Central New York, head coach Paul Pasqualoni.
Well, you said it, John. Obviously, head coach here at Syracuse for so long, 14 years to be exact, but really interesting to just take a look at his career path as a whole. Started out as a high school assistant coach, made it to the NFL as a defensive coordinator. So, as you can suspect, his teams usually have very strong defense, particularly at linebacker.
And so Coach P's UConn team, just like Syracuse at this point, struggling to find wins, but they both seem to play tight games week in and week out. If we have another tight one Friday night, Darius, what could be the X factor?
Oh, the X factor for this game is going to be part of SU's linebacker core. And you know, a guy who has no sacks on the season, Dyshawn Davis, I'm looking right at you. You need to get your first sack of this year, and I expect you to do it coming off the weak side in that position, getting right in Whitmer's face, causing a lot of pressure on him and on the UConn offense.
And Ben?
I'm going to go with Ross Krautman. Obviously, he's had his struggles and wasn't really worried about him until he had that blocked field goal. That was only a 32-yarder. No one really came free. He just left it a little too low. This game might come down to a field goal, so he's definitely going to have to step up.
Oh, based off those X factors, it sounds like you think the trend will continue. Another close game Friday night. How about you give us a score?
Oh, it's good. It's going to be another close game and maybe even a frustrating game for SU fans. 16-10 Syracuse. Not a lot of offense in this matchup. It's going to be tough for NASA to get the ball moving. I expect maybe 1 or 2 good drives, but it's going to be really tough going against this tough defense like this UConn team.
Not a lot of offense, but a lot of defense. Maybe 1 or 2 defensive touchdowns if I had to predict this. I say Ross Krautman hits a game-winning 40-yard field goal to give Syracuse 17-14 victory.
So it could be a late night in the Dome on Friday. Well, thanks for joining us here on Cuse Countdown. We'll let you get back to whatever it is you're watching elsewhere online. I don't know, Gangnam-style flash mob videos. But be sure while you're online to check out sportsblog.citrustv.net. Follow Citrus TV Sports on Twitter and like Citrus TV Sports on Facebook. For Darius Joshua and Ben Peck, I'm John Nolan. Enjoy the game.